Hi everyone and welcome in this video in which we're gonna learn to compare fractions with symbols, very known symbols, with um, less, greater, and equal. Okay, so uh, I'm gonna write down a couple of fractions that we will compare, and I invite you to think right now if you can, if you're able to put the corresponding sign, greater, smaller, or equal, between those fractions. So while I write them down, look at them and see if you already know the answers for a couple of them. Okay? So I'm almost done. We're gonna do about 8 exercises, and I'm gonna show you how you should think about those problems when you meet them. So that's it. I'm done. Let's start. So the first one is 7 over 11, 7 eleventh, which is compared with 5 seventh. So if we look at those fractions, it's not that obvious which one is greater than the other. Of course, we could try to do drawings, and it would take us a lot of time, and that is not the best way to proceed. I suggest, as usual, for this kind of comparison, that you put both fraction on the same denominator. And to do this very quickly, because you don't have to reduce your answer here, to do this very quickly, you just multiply both denominators together, and you're gonna get a common denominator. It will not necessarily be the smallest common denominator, but it will be a common denominator. It will allow you to compare those fractions. Alright? So, what we're going to do now is multiply the first fraction by 7, and 7 here, and the second fraction by 11 and 11. This should give you 49 over 77 and 55 over 77. And now it becomes really obvious which one is the greatest one. 55 is of course greater than 49, and since we have the same denominator, we know that 5 seventh was greater than 7 eleventh. Now we're gonna compare two other fractions here, 1 seventh and 1 sixth. So which one is the greatest? Well, for this one you don't have to put them on the same denominator. You can just think a little bit. 1 seventh is a circle divided into seven parts, and 1 sixth is a circle divided into 6 parts. So which kind of parts is bigger? Well, of course, the sixth are bigger than the seventh, because if you have a pie and you divide that pie between 6 person, they're gonna have a bigger part than if there is 7 person. Of course, the more person there is that takes a part of the integer, the lesser this part is gonna be. So 1 sixth is greater than 1 seventh for this reason. Now 2 over 1, or 2, is it greater or smaller than 13 over 6? Well, you just have to put 2 over 6 also by multiplying by 6 over 6, and you get 12 sixths. And you see that 13 over 6 is greater than 2. Now we have to be careful here, because we're gonna do the same thing with negative numbers now. And negative numbers are tricky, because they might look bigger, but they're in fact smaller. For example, if we do this here, minus 3 and 1/2, let's put that into fractions. Minus 3 and 1/2. If we want to put that into fractions, we're gonna do 3 times 2 plus 1 over 2, and that gives us we're gonna do a plus here and put the minus in front of all this. Okay, so 2 times 3, 6 plus 1, 7, so that gives us 7 over 2, and there's a minus sign in front of it. So minus 3 and 1/2 is minus 7 7/2, excuse me. So we have minus 7/2 compared with minus 5/2. Which one is smaller, which one is bigger? I noticed that I just did I did the mistake by writing down the answer already, but now let's just try to understand this answer. If we have a number line and we have 0 here, we see that minus 5 is somewhere here, and minus 7 is gonna be smaller than minus 5. And here, instead of just integer, we have halves. Okay, so we see that for negative numbers, the one that has the higher number is in fact the smallest, because it is farther from 0. So the bigger the number, the greater the distance you are from 0. And in the fact of negative number, well, if the number is very far from 0 on the negative side, it means that it is a very small number, and we see that minus 7 is smaller than minus 5. Okay, so remember this, because it is not the same when there are two plus signs. Of course, 7 would be greater than 5, but minus 7 is smaller than 5. Okay, now we're continuing, and we face this fraction that we're gonna reduce by dividing by 3 at the numerator and denominator, and we're gonna find that this fraction is equal to 1/3. And for the other fraction, we're gonna reduce it also by dividing by 33 over 33, and that will give us also 1/3, and we see that those fractions are equal. Why did I decided to divide and reduce those fractions instead of finding a common denominator? Well, the reason is obvious. It is that 36 and 99 would give quite a big common denominator if I multiply those two numbers together. So when I face those kind of denominators that get huge, I try to reduce the fraction to see if it's possible to put them on the same denominator by reducing them. And here we can see very quickly that 12 over 36 is 1/3, and 33 over 99 is 1/3. That's why I decided to reduce those fractions this time. Now we have another example here. Minus 3 over 40. Is it greater? Is it equal or less than minus 21 over 285? So here we have quite a problem. We have two big denominator, especially the 285. So if we create a common denominator, it's gonna be huge. So one trick or one thing you should check for before you multiply those two denominator is the following. You should ask yourself the question: can you reduce any of those fractions? Can you reduce them? Because it's gonna simplify your work. So minus 3 over 40 cannot be reduced, unfortunately, but minus 21 over 285 can be reduced by dividing by 3. So if you see that it can be divided by 3, you get minus 7 over 95. And then you can work with this fraction and this fraction instead of working with the two original fractions, and you will get a smaller denominator, and that should give you minus 3 over 40 times 95 times 95, and you should get here times 40 and times 40 if you want to put them on the same denominator. And we see that this leads us to what I have written down already. this was not a problem, it was only the result of this multiplication, and we see that it gives us minus 285 over 3,800, and the other one is minus 280 over 3,800. And now the same question about negative numbers and the same result should help us to find that the greatest of the negative number is always smaller than the lowest one. So since minus 285 is farther from 0, it is smaller. Okay, so in the next video we're gonna put into increasing order a series of fractions, and we're gonna write them down onto a line number in order to practice more how to compare fractions.